getting their prayers in. Hopefully everyone's sitting right now together and enjoying this time of iftar, I suppose you want to say. Let's hope everyone, Sundays, it is a holiday as well. So we're hoping everyone's, gathered around, tuning in right now. We are due for a very, 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 very special show. We've got Brother Muhammad Omar, MBE, Gardens of Peace, mashallah, who has entered the building. So first of all, I'm just going to say Assalamu alaikum to Brother Omar. How's everything? How's it, Ramadan going? Everything's good?
Alhamdulillah, with Allah's grace, it's going very well. And I'm hoping and praying that everybody else's Ramadan is going well. It's almost coming on to an end. And can you imagine how quickly it has gone?
Yeah.
It's as though we started only yesterday. And I hope that everybody's Ramadan so far has been very spiritual and people have been able to connect to the Almighty.
Inshallah. That's exactly, couldn't have said it better myself, that it has gone extremely quick, and we are in the last sort of few days now, and we're asking everyone that please make sure you take advantage of this blessed month of Ramadan. So, Brother Omar, I like to set the mood of our show and ask the guests. So it's like an icebreaker just to get people relaxed. So we get our show into obviously this is going to be a very important show. So everyone that's tuning in right now, go onto our Rive FM Facebook page, Rive FM 94.0 Facebook page. Make sure you share and like. Go in the comment section and get involved. If you can't give me a call on 0333 444 0940, then at least get involved and get those messages in, because this is going to be a very important show, very show for you guys to take on board and understand what's been happening in the funeral services sector right now. What as Muslims do we need to do and watch out for? That's why we've got Brother Omar here. So Brother Omar, what does Brother Omar do for suhoor and what does he do for iftar in terms of menu-wise?
Menu-wise,
Yeah.
fine, absolutely. For suhoor, I normally have cereal and I have some toast and I have some double cream. Can you imagine? All with honey, all unhealthy with tea. For iftar, I just like to have...
Was that toast, whipped cream, and a cup of tea?
Double cream. Not even whipped cream. Double cream, right?
Wow.
With honey and tea. That's all I have for suhoor.
Okay.
And for iftar, I normally have one savory and whatever meal there. So we eat very light. And I don't like to have a very long iftar. I like to get into the mosque by about at least an hour before, so that I can do some ibadah and some reflection. So that is my daily routine. So that's what I do.
I mean, someone like yourself, we can see you've always kept yourself fit. You seem like you're always... I've never seen you overweight. You've always been on point, right?
I wear those clothes which actually hide all my different bulges.
That's probably why you wear this jubba, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Fair enough. Okay, well, let's get down to it now.
Yes.
So, Gardens of Peace,
Yes,
award-winning cemetery, mashallah, has been recognized, all over UK now. You could even probably say all over the world now that people know and heard of Gardens of Peace. What was the vision behind obviously being one of the founding members, yourself, and current board members? What was the vision behind setting this up?
The vision was very simple. All of us here are normally first generation over here. And we had done everything. In fact, our elders had set up mosques, they had set up some community centers. A few had even set up some schools. So therefore, when we came in, there are about 6 of us altogether, the vision we had was very simple, that should something happen to us, and we're all going to die, as Allah says, Kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut, each and every one of us will die. So we were saying that we don't want our bodies to be repatriated to back where we came from. So what will happen to us? How will we be buried? Do we have enough space, or is there a place which will be able to bury us in accordance with our sunnah? And the answer was no. There was some council cemeteries where a small section, but it was still not strictly in accordance to our sunnah. And that was the vision that's really started. And to be honest, the 6 of us who have been going all along for the last 20 years now, none of us had any experience in the cemetery. But alhamdulillah, all 6 of us, and now there are a few more people on board, all had their own specialty, from being a planner, from being a chartered surveyor, being an accountant, being a secretary. All of them brought their mindsets together and skill sets together to do a cemetery with no experience whatsoever, but only guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to be honest, Zamil, when we first started the project, there was the Elmbridge Road first one.
That's right.
Our first burial was in November 2002 in Ramadan.
Yeah.
And can you imagine, we thought that it was 21 acres, 10,000 graves.
21 acres, is that big?
Yeah, 21 acres. And we thought 10,000 graves, it should be enough for our lifetime. Lo and behold, in 15 years of operation, that cemetery became full.
That's right.
So this is why we had to buy a second cemetery, and there is a third cemetery which is being developed at the moment. So the vision was very simple. If somebody dies in this country, let them have the full rights in accordance with our Islamic requirements. So that was the vision. And I hope and I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have got to that level, that we are able to provide that service and that basically that amount of closure to people, that they are able to bury their loved ones in a manner which is in accordance with our Islamic requirements.
100%. I mean, if anyone hasn't, been to any of these sites, especially the first site, Elmbridge, mashallah, that I remember the first time when I went there, and the sense of it's an ajib kind of feeling that you get, like I would say a bit of a peace kind of feeling, quiet. It's a unique feeling, a very unique feeling that you get. And I'm urging everyone right now that who hasn't ever been to a burial site or a cemetery, do make sure that you visit this site, because it does have a unique feeling. Especially the first site, it looks like there was a lot of thought process with the trees and the whole environment. Like you said, there's a lot of council burial sites, but they just tend to be a plot. You just turn up there, you bury obviously, and then you're gone. You don't follow up wise. There's not much, but with the Gardens of Peace site, there seems like there's always an urgency to want to go back again.
Actually, when we started up, a lot of people were giving us the advice that we should set up a cemetery. We should scare people. Be dull and dark and everything like that. And we said no. Yeah. Let us do a cemetery. And our ethos was very simple. When a grieving family comes into the cemetery, they're already very upset. They have to go and bury their loved ones. But we wanted to ensure that when they left there after burying their loved ones, if they did not achieve a sense of some sort of comfort to say that they've left the people, they left the families in a better place, then we have failed. And that is why we spent so much on the landscaping, on the trees, and also at the same time to educate our people to say that, listen, trees are there to create and are created to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they're doing zikr. So we should also at the same time give the message and the dawah to people to say, Islam is all about peace. Islam is all about tranquility. Islam is all about equality. You've seen that all the graves are identical.
Yes.
Islam is all about respecting nature. Islam is all about understanding that our life in this world is temporary. Our abode is the grave. And that is why we try to make it look to say your final abode should be the best you possibly can. After all, in this short world, do we not want to have a house which is beautifully decorated? You will get the latest design gadgets. You will have the latest cars. Yet the amount of time you're going to spend in the grave, what preparation do you make for that? What do you do for that? And I think that ethos was what really led us to try and design something. So, and even having a prayer area in this country, namaz times are so close together. Let us make sure that it's clean. So trying to give a message, even not only to a Muslim, but to a non-Muslim, to say that, listen, Islam teaches you cleanliness. Islam teaches you about being together. Islam doesn't teach you to have there's any differences between a white person, black person. As long as you are the same, Islam teaches you all about that. And that is the ethos we've done so far. I'm not sure we have succeeded. We would like to think we've gone a long way down there, but that has been our model. And I think a lot of people, after we started that, have started to the need to ensure that even council cemetery up the game.
100%.
So that was the incentive to make sure that other cemeteries in the country are able to not replicate, perhaps not, but at least up their standards, and to show that if there is a will, you can do it. Definitely. It's not something which is impossible. In the past, it was always the case, it's not possible to do this, or it's not possible. But when you actually show them in practice, there is no argument left for them to say, well, we cannot provide that.
I agree. But Omar, just to ask, because naturally this is like the effort, the thought process, the service that you guys provide at Gardens of Peace is just, mashallah, something else. Now, yourself, is this something that you do full-time, flat out? Because I know, looking at you back in the day, accountant, finance director, and so on, is that something you've put on the shelf now and you're focusing solely on this?
At the moment, yes, because there is a lot of work to be done.
Oh, yes.
Not only at Gardens of Peace, but we have to do a lot of work nationally. There are a lot of hurdles we have at this moment in time in ensuring that we have got paperwork on time, that the Muslim community faith requirements are done. So therefore, it requires a lot of effort. And this is why we have to ensure that somebody is there. So this cannot be done just fully on a voluntary basis, because it's a full-time commitment. You need to ensure to have to engage with stakeholders. There's always so much to be done, and there are new regulations coming into the country for the funeral sector and the burial sector, which require so much coordination. And at the same time, we also found out that during COVID, there's a lot of leadership required in this field for the Muslim community. And I think this is where we are hoping that at least if we start the leadership challenge and we start to get people on that ladder now, so that they hopefully can take over from the younger generation, can come and step into our place and start ensuring that there is longevity and there is succession planning going through.
Inshallah. And as we're getting to know yourself a bit more and letting the listeners know yourself a bit more as well, the MBE, tell us a story, a little bit of story behind that. How did that happen?
The MBE was literally for our services during COVID, right? I'm the face of Gardens of Peace, but it was a team effort. So what happened is that I think I was not nominated by anybody from the community, but this was a recognition from the Departments of Communities and Leveling Up. So because we are very involved in the sector, so they recommended me, and alhamdulillah, I was given the MBE. But I hasten to add that MBE, I only accepted it on behalf of all my colleagues and all the staff who work at Gardens of Peace, because literally we will touch on the COVID, but you will have seen that it was not possible without the team. The numbers and the level of mortality that was there, and the levels of burials which we used to do was quite significant. And that's not a person's job. That is a team effort. Those who are full-time, those who are even non-executives, and those who are the management, it was a team effort. And just like even I'm sure Minhajul Quran works as a team effort, right?
Yes.
Without there may be a face as a front, but it's a team effort. So I think this one was for the team, I would like to say.
MashaAllah. And which royalty presented to you? That's what we all know.
Prince Charles.
Prince Charles himself.
Exactly.
There you go. So there you hear it anyway. Okay, now 2 sites. Obviously, the first site pretty much all done. I think there's a baby section that is this something that you developed over the years, where you thought a stillbirth child or they can get a send off as well? Is this another thought process that took place that when you set up the Gardens of Peace one? I know that in Elbridge Road still there, still getting used as well. What was the thought process behind that as well?
So let me just go. When we started Gardens of Peace, we wanted to make sure that particular cemetery had 5 different sections. Okay, so the 5 different sections were, the first one is any child who dies in the mother's womb at less than 120 days to be precise. The second section was 121 days up to stillbirth. Third section was 0 to 2. Fourth section was 2 to 12. And anything over 12 was regarded as an adult. Now, the significance over here is that any fetus more than 120 days, or 121 days to be precise, we believe that at that time the ruh enters the body. So therefore, we have to make sure that they have got some other requirements, like just washing the body and shrouding it. But more than anything else, even if it's just a small specimen, we have to bury it, because we respect human beings so much. And therefore, when we came on board, any fetal remains of less than 24 weeks used to be just incinerated or be buried together, right? So we had to educate the hospitals, had to educate the community to say, listen, don't do that, right? If you're not able to provide for it, come to us, we will do so. So that's the reason, and that's the thought process. Secondly, over the years, what we have found that in our community, the Muslim community, stillbirth and neonatal deaths are perhaps 5 times more likely than any other community. So therefore, what we decided to do, that we had more space there at Elmbridge. So at this moment in time, there's no adult burials, but the children burials still continue to do so. But when people actually do come, and I've had ministers, I've had health people come in, when they actually see, when I tell them that we have a higher level of stillbirth and neonatal, they just seem to rely on the national figure that is within this percentage. But when they actually come and see with their own eyes, they are actually very shocked to say that this is the situation. So the second site then obviously was developed, and that is now, because of the pandemic as well,
Yes.
it's almost 2/3 full.
2/3 full already.
Absolutely. And then the third site, which is on the M25 A12 junction, which will be ready, inshallah, we hope sometime during the course of this year.
Okay.
But I hasten to add that it still will not be enough. And therefore, as I mentioned, I think if viewers may remember, pre-pandemic, when I came for another interview over here during Ramadan, I mentioned at that time that it is our responsibility, and we'll touch on it a bit later on, that we need to go to the council and ensure that there is Muslim spaces available, because going forward, as land becomes more acute, we need to ensure that we have sufficient spaces for our Muslim community. Hopefully, inshallah, that the new generation, we will want to leave a legacy behind for them to say that we have done something, so they can at least remember us and make dua for us.
I mean, look, it's important that people start thinking about this now. And as you've mentioned, and it's evident in front of you, the amount of building and infrastructure that's happening in UK right now. Land is just going. It's just, you're losing land left, right, and center. And if you're not planning ahead, I mean, yourself already, you thought, okay, one site, we're enough. And then when you see that first site getting filled up, okay, you know what, we need another second site. The second site is almost filled up. And I think while you got the second one, you already had purchased the third one, knowing that, it's going to inevitably happen. And in your lifetime, probably the third one will probably fill up as well, and probably another one after that as well, maybe more. But it just makes you think that, a lot of forth planning and a lot of thinking and a lot of thought process, especially where communities are strong, in areas that are strong, they need to start thinking about, okay, should we get some land, or should we take the initiative to think about this? Because if it's not thought of, what's going to happen?
Yeah, I think one of the disadvantages of Gardens of Peace actually running the cemetery has been that the councils have taken a back step. They seem to think, well, the Muslim community will be looked after by Gardens of Peace. And in particular, it's very true for 4 or 5 boroughs, and that's Tower Hamlets, Newham, Redbridge, Barking and Dagenham, Hackney. All those boroughs seem to think that, well, as long as Gardens of Peace is there, we don't need to worry about the Muslim community. Well, that is the wrong attitude to take. 100%. The residents of Newham, the residents of all these boroughs are taxpayers, are council taxpayers. So why should they not be provided? Under the equality and diversity, every member, every resident of every borough should be equally treated, and you should be able to make sure that you provide it. And from a faith perspective, we are the only community now left which only will have burials as an option. We don't have any other option. And therefore, for us, we do have a requirement that, there should be a burial space provided. And therefore, you cannot say that, well, we can't do so, and we cannot do this because we don't have enough resources. It's your moral responsibility to provide for every member of your community.
Definitely. Listeners, this is Rive FM 94.0, and this is the Iftar Show. Welcome to the Iftar Show. Whoever's tuning in right now, we have Brother Muhammad Omar, MBE from Gardens of Peace, mashallah, who has blessed us for this Iftar Show today. And we are discussing some serious topics about the whole Muslim funeral aspect and what we need to do and what's happening as well. And inshallah, we are going to go on a short break right now. But once we come back from this break, we are going to touch on COVID. Now, we know that COVID, this pandemic, people may think that, it's there, it's happened. People were talking about vaccines, people were talking about this, washing hands and so on. But you know what? Actually, a person on the ground and seeing what this COVID was impacting, to hear from Brother Omar, those stories, I'm sure it's going to be quite strong. So make sure you stay tuned. This is Rive FM 94.0, and this is the Iftar Show.
If you want to advertise
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Iftar show on Rive FM 94.0. I'm joined here by brother Omar from Gardens of Peace. I hope everyone's doing well. Guys, get onto our Facebook pages, our YouTube pages, our Instagram pages on Rive FM 94.0 and make sure you like us first of all, share it out, share this link out. This is a very important show that we're doing today during Iftar. You know, we always talk about things we should remember right now, and we know death is important, but how to prepare for it, think about the preparations, think about the stuff that we need to do on the back end for it. These are important things that for us to bear in mind. So you know what, this is an important show. I'm asking everyone right now to get involved on our chats as well, and I will make sure that any comments, any questions, I will definitely get them to brother Omar. Now, brother Omar, we're getting into now COVID, our lovely COVID, the pandemic that has caused us immense grief. What can we say, for the last 2 years? You've got people with their conspiracy theories, you've got people with their thoughts on what COVID is all about. But actually, for someone who's running a funeral service / burial service, talk to us. What happened? It was chaos during that time. For especially, I'm sure, for Gardens of Peace at that time. Take us through that journey. What happened during COVID?
Brother Zambil, I think we have been running these cemeteries as if for 20 years.
Yes.
We were not really, nobody was prepared for what happened during the pandemic. I still remember the first day, 16th of March 2020, when it hit us. At that time, when COVID hit us, we had so many conspiracy theories and all that. First and foremost, let me clarify that. Whatever the conspiracy theorists may think about, for us on the ground, we can tell you immediately that the numbers of death was almost double than what we normally do in a year. So therefore, can anybody please explain to me that were people deliberately killed or what? There was some reason for all these people passing away. Yeah. So this is something, there was no conspiracy as far as I'm concerned. The reality was on the ground. Yeah. And I think a lot of people were just simply not wanting to accept that, this is what's happening in this particular time. COVID was a very difficult period. For us, one of the major issues was that when the first data was revealed, they were saying that there would be approximately 500,000 deaths will be as a result of COVID. And we already worked out from some stats that between 10 and 15% will be Muslim deaths throughout the whole country. So you imagine that if it's 15, or even if it's 10%, 50 to 75,000 people dying in 1 year would have been horrific for everybody concerned. And when those sort of figures were actually being bandied around, it made us very nervous. But thankfully to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we did not get at that level. But at the same time, there was a lot more deaths than we had expected. And the major challenges we faced was firstly, as we talked about it before, that there was this issue about age, this was the issue about vulnerability, and sadly in our community, majority of the times, all the time, the funeral industry were run by elderly people. And they were the first ones who were to be discounted from this particular process. So that was the first hurdle. The second hurdle which we found, which was perhaps the most difficult one for me in particular, was the fact that there were fatwas being given by different scholars that you should not give ghusl to a COVID body. You should not touch it, and so was the advice.
Yes, it was just
absolutely
pat it down. Absolutely,
just pat it down, and I was not accepting that. For me, the thought was very simple. If it is my father or my mother, would I feel comfortable not giving them the ghusl? It is their right after all. If I could give it done in a safe manner, why should I deprive them of that right? Right? And this is why I then fought with the Public Health England. I then went to see all our scholars, and alhamdulillah, with their blessings, when with proper PPE, and alhamdulillah, mashallah, there were 3 or 4 brothers who were working for PHE, for Public Health England, Brother Shazad Ahmed. There was also Professor Alimuddin Zumla, a very, very renowned scholar on infectious disease. We worked with them, and this is how we were managing to do so. And thereafter, we took it up on ourselves to make sure that every COVID victim had a ghusl. So any burial and any funeral we took under our own wings, we made sure that everybody had a ghusl in a safe manner so that at least families could have closure. You imagine that if you had not given your mother or your father, would that not be bugging you for the rest of your life? Okay, so this is the challenges we faced, and that was also the second problem. How does the funeral directors, Gardens of Peace could not handle everything.
No.
This is where we are totally and eternally grateful for so many of the volunteers which actually raised, well, actually got up on that occasion. Minhajul Quran was one of them. Without yourselves, without so many other, Masjid Ibrahim, without supporting humanity, there are so many of the funeral directors who actually stepped up on that occasion. Youngsters for the first time who had never ever witnessed how to do a ghusl were all of a sudden stepping up onto the platform.
Just this is perfect for me to just come in and just tell everyone that, look, likes of me, what happened was the Haji Muz, not me, the Haji Muzaffar Sahib, who runs Minhaj Funeral Services. And what happened was, as soon as COVID hit, people didn't know how to react. As you said, COVID's come, restrictions have come, everything's on lockdown now. And all of a sudden, everything's closed. And I've got a call now from Haji Muzaffar telling me that, young Muz, you need to run Minhaj Funeral Services now. And I was like, I mean, okay, but what do I do? And all of a sudden, we're just put into the deep end. And you're told that as youngsters, go ahead and now run the funeral services. So literally, but it was just myself and one other person. That's all it was. There's two of us. We've gone, we're looking at each other now that we're going to run the funeral services now. And then I'm asking him, do you know the ethics and etiquettes? And we're Googling, we're asking the elders what to do and stuff. And next thing you know, we're the first body we've handled and we brought it to Gardens of Peace. And it was my first time actually viewing a ghusl, because I remember when you came a couple of years ago and I said to you, Brother Omar, how will I be able to do my own father's? Because I find that I would not be able to handle my emotions. How would I do it? And Minhaj Funeral Services put me in that platform to say, Muz, you've got no choice now. You're going to actually run a funeral service.
Correct.
So wow, myself and Brother Usman, a younger guy, even younger than myself, ran the funeral services, and he took it to a very good level. And as you said, stepped up. Amazing.
I mean, you see, this was the positive element of COVID, because we had a new generation of people who are now willing and able to carry out this very vital function of doing ghusls. And obviously we gave a lot of guidance, and I'm sure you called me so many times, so many people called me about it, how to give a ghusl. And that's what we have done. But it was a very emotional time. Not only was that, we had families who could not be with their loved ones in hospital. We had restrictions in the cemetery, only 5 people to come for a ghusl, right? Or for the burial. So all these elements, and on top of it, right, we were actually burying so many people at one go. And there was one time we were seriously thinking of having a mass grave to bury people. And alhamdulillah, with Allah's will and Allah's help, we did not have to go down that route. Just let me share what were the real problems we had during COVID. The problems we really had during COVID was that of how to deal with families more than anything else, because their emotions were very, very high. Secondly, we also had to do at the same time that we had to make sure that the safety of the staff was there. If people were infected and they were also coming to the cemetery, at that time, there was a law that if you have developed the symptoms, you need to isolate. So can you imagine if our staff got these, we would have to close the cemetery. We could not afford that risk. So that's what we were trying to tell to people, that we're not being harsh, we're not being difficult. What we are trying to do is in the safety, not only for our staff, but for the khidmah of the whole community. And we were burying at one time, we started with 5, 6, 7, 8 a day. And at its peak, which was in January 2021, that was perhaps the toughest month in the history of the Gardens of Peace. In that 1 month, every single day for the whole month, we were burying on average 17 people every single day. In one day during that month, I think 3 occasions, we did 20 in a day. 10 in the morning, 10 in the afternoon. You imagine. And how did we do that? No other cemetery in the entire country to do that. We didn't do it. It was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gave us the energy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it possible for us to do so, that we were able to process so many people so that they could not be delayed and they were made return to their maker in as quickly as possible on that time. And here I would like to also thank that the registrars, the hospitals, the mortuaries, all of them were fantastic. They actually tried to help the community. So we are very quick to criticize, but during that period, they really did play their part. And the tragedies of this, there are a few cases, if you would allow me to share.
Please, please.
We buried, these are the tragic cases. We buried a daughter. As soon as we were lowering the daughter, we heard news that the mother has passed away. You imagine that, okay? We're having fathers who passed away, later on mothers who are passing away, daughters who passed, sisters who've been passing away. The other one which sticks to my mind so vividly is the fact of a doctor. He had nobody. He was a doctor, his wife was a doctor, and they had only one child. They had no family in this country. They were all alone, but they had some friends. The wife contracted COVID. The husband had COVID, and the daughter also was isolating. The husband had to give us permission to bury his wife. He could not even attend. His daughter could not even attend. You imagine what must be going through that husband today to witness that no. And he said, no, I don't want to wait till I come out of self-isolation. Our right is to bury the someone as quickly as possible. Let my wife be buried. Even I'm not present, let them be buried. You imagine that child now, what's going to happen to her. There were so many tragedies of this story. I also will also share that at that same time, I also lost my mother to COVID in October 2020. My greatest problem was that at that stage, that they were only allowing hospital people, were only allowing one person to be there. And you imagine if you have brothers and sisters, how do you make a decision to say that, you should be with your mother at the last stage, right? These were the difficulties. You could not even hold your mom's hand at the time of death or your father's time to hold his hand to say, at least they will know that at least my loved one is with me when they've been passing away. That tragedy, those families who could not be at the funeral, those families who could not participate in the ghusl, those families who were not able to get closure. This is what will be the post-COVID issues. And this is where we as a community need to come together and recognize. It is not that we do not think that we don't believe in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We have to return back to Him. But we as human beings need closure. We have issues to say, I was not able to do my mother's burial. Or we then have guilt feelings that if I did not send my mother to the hospital, maybe she would have died at home. I would have been able to do more. All these emotions are coming through. And those people who had no vaccination, I had a family, a young person, 29 years of age, who died. Wow. His family did not believe in vaccination. The day his brother died, the other brother came to tell me, immediately says, we should have taken the vaccination. I am not saying that the vaccination would have saved them, but at the same time, it was our duty from an Islamic perspective that why are we not protecting ourselves to protect others from ourselves? We should be looking at it from that perspective, not because whatever the vaccine may be. We should be looking at it from an Islamic perspective as to say we should not be an issue for others. And this is why I say that even now, even the government may say and lift the restrictions. Please take it from me. The virus is very much still out there. It is just that they have told us to just live with it, because from an economic perspective, they cannot continue to do so. So my appeal to everybody will still be vigilant, still be careful, take precautions wherever you can. For the elderly, you are more vulnerable. Please make sure that you are able to do so. This is what COVID did for so many of these families. And this is what they will be also feeling themselves today, is that I have lost somebody. And this is why when somebody tells us that, I spend 10 minutes and I can get a fine, I can tell you millions of families would have happily paid a fine for 20 pounds or 50 pounds to spend that last valuable 10 minutes of their with loved ones' last minutes, rather than being deprived of not being with their loved ones. That emotion, that aspect of it, still is there with families. And this is so tragic for so many of the families, and so many of them I still support, and they still come to me and they remember that you were there. Do you remember my mother was buried during COVID? At times we could not even remember. We are doing so many. And you will remember that, you had never seen It was as though that you have a delivery place on the supermarket. You're delivering people one after, there's a queue of and this is something. But Alhamdulillah, the community came together. And today my tribute is to all those volunteers who stepped up, including Minhajul Quran, that you did an amazing job. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah rewards you for you actually providing that vital service, and you providing that service to the families who were at that time really lost, not knowing what to do. Had it not been for all these volunteers, I can tell you for a fact, so many bodies would have been delayed in the mortuaries.
Yeah.
We would not have been able to process so many. So all the community for the first time came together. We worked as a community. We worked as an ummah.
Yeah.
This just shows that we are capable of working together. Why should it only be a tragedy for us to get together? Why can we not work when we are just on a normal life for the betterment of our community, for the betterment of society? Why can't we do that? This is something we should be questioning ourselves. And I just hope that people who still had doubts and conspiracies, my challenge to you is just come to the cemetery and look for yourself. You don't need to say, nobody needs to explain to you. You just need to look at the graves which are there, and you yourself will register that no, this was the truth. People did lose their lives during COVID, and it is not some form of conspiracy theory.
100%. I mean, I just want to share something as well that I had one of very close friends of mine, very, very close friends. I mean, we were in uni together, and what happened was both his mother and father got COVID, and both were in hospital. First, the mother passes away, and we've turned up and we're doing the burial. I think it was in Eden at that time.
Yes.
And they actually dug a mass grave as well. And when we buried the mother, and then the brothers came up to me and said, Muz, like, what do we say to our father that we've just buried our mother? What do you say at that time? And one day later, the father passes away. And we've turned up now again to the funeral. I think that time it was 30 people allowed that time. And we've turned up, and what do you say?
Exactly.
What do you say to, you've just been, they're orphans now. They're orphans now within a day.
Absolutely.
Within a day, they're both mother and father, blessed mother and father, has gone. They've gone now. And having that burial and having that take place. And I remember everyone at that point, at that burial, was like, COVID's here, bro. This is COVID.
Absolutely.
What are we saying? We just lost our mother and father.
Yeah.
Guys, please. And half the talk the imam and the brothers were giving were, please, COVID is here. Wake up and realize what's happening.
Absolutely. Let me just share this one story about that. You must never forget the might and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I relay this story about COVID because you said about husband and wife. We buried both husband and wife were critically ill in hospital, and both of them were told they will live a matter of days to survive. The wife died. The son came to us and said, please, if you could possibly save the grave next door to my mother, because my father will die any minute now. And we said, we don't normally do that, but the circumstances are such that we may consider that for it. So we said, okay, we'll leave this grave for your father for a couple of days. Lo and behold, Muzammil rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works miracle. That husband today comes and visits his wife's grave. He fully recovered. The doctors had written him off. His son had already been prepared for the worst. Yeah, he had already told me, uncle, please, you cannot not allow me to do this. And today I see the uncle, he comes in and he hugs me, and both of us shed a tear to say that Allah is the person who can determine when somebody is going to be taken away. Not any doctors, not anybody else. But at the same time, you also have the tragedy of another doctor who was in coma for at least 45 days, 50 days. And then he leaves behind 3, 4, 5-year-old children to be brought up. Can you imagine what's going to happen to the children now? They're going to grow up without a father, and the wife is going to, and there are orphans, as you are saying, some orphans as well. They had no, who is going to raise them up, really, So this is something we should always be mindful of, that
100%.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take us at any way. I am sure during Ramadan, you have heard of so many instances. Somebody just goes to sleep and doesn't wake up. Somebody is waiting up for iftar, and by the next thing is they collapse and die. Somebody more absolutely. Somebody was just said, "I'm just getting up from suhoor, or have iftar, or just getting up from bed," and is no longer there. So, and please, one of the things I should always emphasize, because we've got a younger listener group, don't think that age will save you. We bury every single day somebody from the mother's stomach to 113 years of age. And lately we've been burying so many people from the age group of between 20 to 40. So many people. So please do not think that, I will start turning towards Allah when I get older, or nothing is going to happen to me. You could just go in a car and die of an accident. How do you know?
Yes.
All right. So these are the realities people should take from death, and see when they go and bury somebody, that there is a reality here. Are we prepared for ourselves? Sometimes what really upsets me is we do not uphold the etiquettes of a cemetery. When we go there for literally half an hour, but yet it's a social occasion. We start joking, we start messing around, and it becomes like a marketplace. Why? Even for that half an hour, can you not concentrate that what would happen if you are the person who was being buried?
100%.
What about the family? What would they feel? That today I'm marrying my mother, my father. For that particular family, everybody is special. And for me at Gardens of Peace, and our philosophy is that every single family member who has come to bury somebody is special. There is not somebody to say you're a multimillionaire, you're a pauper. And this is why our level of service to every individual must be the same. If we are shortcoming, it's not because we deliberately do that, but this is what our philosophy should be in Islam as well, that we treat everybody exactly the same. And one of the stories which I would like to say is that we always do not think that we should always make shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah has blessed us with Iman. We should be with Iman all the time. We should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I always related the story that about 4 months ago, there was a brother who was a non-Muslim. 85 years of his life, right? He was a non-Muslim. 3 days before he passed away, he accepted the Shahada in the hospital. You imagine that this person is probably a better Muslim because he did not commit any sins in those 3 days, right? So who are we to judge anybody? Let us not be judgmental about individuals. Let us ensure that we make dua for each and every one of us. And if our brothers and sisters are not doing something wrong, let's make dua for them. But don't be judgmental about it. And I think death will teach you a lot when you come to this, that how you should live your life correctly. So COVID is still there. And I would end from a political perspective that the BMA community were inadvertently more affected, and because of health inequalities, specifically in the boroughs like Newham, Redbridge and everything, we do not get the same level of access of healthcare as other areas do. And this is something we should always be fighting for our rights. And also in the front line, so much of the hospital frontline workers are from the community, and they were more put at a risk than any other community. This is something we should always be, as a community, trying to fight for our rights, but in a manner which is justifiable, not thumping, but trying to be ensuring that we empower ourselves to make sure that there is change and that every human being's right is being taken care of.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Brother Omar, I just had a message from my producer saying that we're supposed to go on a break, but you know what? As the show is almost coming up to Iftar, and there's a lot of viewers on board as well, we've decided just to keep going because the people are really engaging with what you're saying, and it is getting emotional. It is getting emotional. Now, I suppose it is a good time. You mentioned that it's so important to think and to give this message to everyone out there as well now, that death is literally around the corner. We had one of our volunteers, our amazing volunteers, Sultan Sahab. I don't know if you ever engaged with him. You probably saw him in person. And his nephew went to Pakistan to get married, 22 years old, went to get married on the day of the Barat. So he's bringing his wife home now. And he's left the wife and he's gone out for a little break, fresh air in the porch in Pakistan, big houses. He's fallen off. He's fallen off the porch, the balcony, shall I say. He's fallen off and he's died. He's died there and then, and he's got buried on the day of his walima. SubhanAllah. This is what's happening right now. A 22-year-old brother who literally lost his life, looking forward to his future now. Like, he's just got married, he's excited now, and all of a sudden,
these are, and this is why
you must know so many stories.
So many, and you see, this is the reason why people much. And you see, I also like to give a message to the youth. When some of the youngsters today, we get so many increasing numbers of dying because of stabbing and everything, like murders. Please, okay, the person has died, but at the same time, the parents and all of them have literally a living death, because for them to come to terms with the loss of their son or their daughter is really beyond terms, right? I see that on a daily basis. They are then questioning themselves as parents. Did I do something wrong? Did I not raise my child correctly? Did I go wrong somewhere? Why is my son taken away? And then they question themselves, and every single day they will be coming. They'll be crying on their son's grave, or they'll be crying on their daughter's grave. What did I do wrong? Was I not a good parent? So this is what I'm saying. When a young person loses his life, it's not only that young person, it's that entire family who is now going to have to go through that grief. And this is why I'm saying to our youngsters, please make sure that the company you keep with is a good company. Make sure that you listen to your parents. And this is a plea to every one of you, that please, if you have parents, please take this opportunity to serve them. Let not there come by where they have left you and you are crying tears to say, I wish my mother was here, that I would be able to serve her, or my father was here, I'll be able to serve with her. And this is why for Eid, I know this is the first Eid without any COVID restrictions. My urge to every one of you, I know every one of you would like to come to the cemetery, but please be very mindful that there is only limited car park space here. We try and stagger your journeys. We will be open from 6 o'clock in the morning till 7:45 in the evening. So try and stagger your journey. Do not be a nuisance to the neighbors. Try and car share. If you are able to, come a few days before, come a few days after, so that everybody's time at the cemetery is done in a peaceful manner and there is no rush and you're not causing any inconvenience to anybody concerned. It is a day for reflection, no doubt. I do not dispute that for 1 minute. But at the same time, also try and make sure that you are able to ensure that there is some sort of semblance and people have respect for the cemetery and the etiquettes, and you are sensible about it. I know it's not time for Iftar. I shall make dua for
We still got 4 minutes. Literally a few minutes.
Okay.
We've got Sister Nahida Khan who's saying, I lost both my parents in the middle of March 2020. They are both in Gardens of Peace, buried right next to each other.
That's right.
So was it the sister you was talking about?
No, there was also there there were other people as well be buried at the same time. So there were so many people we buried, and all those people who are coming there and who are actually whoever has been buried there, for them, they still don't have closure, most of them. And this is why we need to make sure that the Muslim Bereavement Support Service, which we are there, we have got that up and running. And so therefore, we always encourage people to make sure that you contact our sisters. And also we have got an imam on site who can also provide you the bereavement support you need from an Islamic perspective. We also know that some of them will view the COVID, will have mental issues. And there are Islamic charities who will be able to guide you and help you out with mental issues as well. So therefore, my urge to everyone who's listening, go onto our website or the website of the Muslim Bereavement Support Service and try and see if you need any help. We will be there to help you.
You just call up. Is that how it works?
You just call up and it's the Muslim Bereavement Support Service is absolutely free.
But Omar, you're right. That is so important. Yeah. Just talking myself right now. It's been 22 years that my grandfather passed away. Yes. And grandparents have that impact on you, that give that love is something else.
Absolutely.
And I always wonder, because he saw me in my time way before I was GCSEs back then. Yes. And he used to think I was so simple. I don't know.
Absolutely.
He would never imagine I'll be on the radio right now. And my wish was always, what would I do to have literally a few minutes with him? Right now, I'll do anything to have that few minutes with him. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case.
Absolutely.
For 22 years, and you still feel it. Absolutely. You still feel it. Every year we think about him and we get together and you think, SubhanAllah, I wish we had that moment. But, do take advantage of that bereavement service. We've got 2 more minutes left for Iftar, literally a minute left. So I'm going to pass it by the Omar for final dua.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. Ya Allah, we have fasted for you, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, please accept our fast, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, this holy month of Ramadan, Ya Allah, we've done our best to be closer to you. We have tried to pray the Quran. We have tried to pray the Tarawih. We have kept our fast, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we are human beings. If we've made any mistakes, please forgive us, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, a few days are left of this Ramadan, of this Mubarak month, Ya Allah. Please give us the opportunity to take this month to its best and try and do as much ibadah as possible, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, in these few nights, we may have Laylatul Qadr, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, give us an opportunity to find that night, Ya Allah. And Ya Allah, forgive all the Muslims, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, so many brothers and sisters have passed away. Ya Allah, mothers and fathers, daughters and sons have passed away. And they've been buried at the cemetery. Ya Allah, forgive each and every one of them. Make their graves part of Jannah. Elevate their status, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, those who are surviving, Ya Allah, give them the ability to cope with this loss, Ya Allah. So many people are not well, Ya Allah. Grant each and every one of them full shifa, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, guide us on the right path, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, one day we also have to come to you, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, none of us are prepared for that day. Ya Allah, we are worried about dunya, not remembering one day that we have to come to you, Ya Allah. Before death comes to us, give us an opportunity to prepare for our death, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, if our parents are alive, give us an ability to serve our parents, Ya Allah. If our children are there, Ya Allah, guide our children. Make them the coolness of our eyes, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, our Muslim Ummah is suffering all over the world. In Palestine, in Syria, in Yemen, in Burma, everywhere in the world. Our Ummah is suffering. Ya Allah, protect our Ummah. Ya Allah, grant us unity, Ya Allah. Protect those who are vulnerable. Ya Allah, protect those who need shelter. Ya Allah, it is a time of Iftar, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we are blessed with some food. Ya Allah, there's so many people who will not even have food, will not even have clean water. Ya Allah, look after the Ummah, Ya Allah. Make us turn towards our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, please ensure that you accept these humble du'as of us. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun alal mursaleen. Walhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Dua.
This iftari is sponsored by the Wahbeh restaurant in Gants Hill, Ilford, and Plashett Carpets in Upton Park.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم إني لك صمت وبك آمنت وعليك توكلت وعلى رزقك أفطرت. وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله في الأولين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه في الآخرين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت سيدنا ومولانا محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
This iftari is sponsored by the Wahbeh restaurant in Gants Hill, Ilford, and Plashet Carpets in Upton Park.
Let's connect with the Holy Quran.